Madame la Présidente, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends. Thank you for giving me the opportunity and the privilege of speaking in this gathering. My name is Sara Nouri, and I'm a French-Iranian lawyer, member of the Paris Bar. My parents are born both in Iran and went into exile in France ever since the terrible oppression of the Iranian people by the mullahs regime began 33 years ago. My father is a former diplomat who chose to break off his ties to the Islamic Republic as soon as the bloodshed began. He's been fighting alongside the Iranian resistance, and particularly the PMOI, that he always believes to be the only democratic and credible alternative to the mullah's dictatorship. My mother is an architect who studied in Paris, where she met my father, and both have devoted themselves to the struggle for democracy, freedom, and human rights in their homeland. My mother is also a women's rights activist and has always supported the NCRI, headed by Madame Mariam Rajavi. I therefore grew up in the political climate surrounding this great cause. I started early in my youth to take part in demonstrations, meetings, and protests, actions against the suffering the religious dictatorship has been inflicting on our people, especially the women and the young people like myself. Still a teenager, I was so moved by the devotion, faith, hope, and sacrifice with which the People's Mujahideen and the NCRI fought to free their people of mullah's tyranny, that I could not but be convinced that this was a really legitimate struggle. I was looking for ways to help the native land of my parents, and I understood soon that we who have the privilege of living in democratic and open societies have the means and the duty to inform the opinion and protest against the oppression, especially in what has been a great civilization. Helping to bring democracy and freedom to a nation like Iran is also promoting peace, security, and democracy in the Middle East region and elsewhere, including in France, my native country, and in Europe. But to achieve this, our first and foremost duty is to help the Iranian freedom fighters. Distinguished guests, allow me to take this opportunity of your presence as American friends of this resistance movement to express my deep concern over the United States administration's attitude toward the Iranian question. It seems to me that some of the people in charge of the world's oldest democracy, especially in the White House and the State Department, are more concerned with appeasing the mullahs rather than listening to the cry of freedom coming from Iran. Since Hassan Rouhani became president, the regime's authorities have announced more than 500 hangings, some of them publicly. Victims include women and minors, and some political prisoners are hanged as drug dealers. I am also extremely worried about the situation of the 3,000 PMOI members, including 1,000 women, now in a prison in Iraq called Camp Liberty. They were attacked and massacred in Camp Ashraf by the Iraqi forces, taking their orders from Maliki, whose government is a surrogate of the Islamic Republic. After they were forcibly moved to Camp Liberty, the attacks and killings have continued. We have here a disastrous case of the breach of the international law as well as the international humanitarian law. The United States administration bears a direct responsibility. Western nations must not let themselves be once again misled by the mullah's regime into a course of action that serves only its policies of expansion and terror at the expense of the Iranian people. Let's ask ourselves, what has changed in Iran since this so-called moderate became president? I feel very strongly about the heartwarming presence of so many American dignitaries as well as ordinary citizens at our side. I appreciate everything you have done to help these freedom fighters, who are also inspired by the French and American revolutions that brought freedom and prosperity to their people. They ask nothing more than being helped to put an end to the tyranny and injustice in their homeland, so this great nation may join the democratic and free world and contribute to its advancement. Thank you for your support and help.